All righty, we are live. I got to watch my little uploader. Welcome to Tea with Rich. I am T, and I am here with my forever friend and co-host, Rich Lyons. Rich, how you doing today, buddy?
Good to see you, brother. Always a pleasure. Always a
I I,
pleasure.
I feel like we maybe fixed the audio levels thing finally, and maybe this won't sound
I
so
so
janky.
hope so. I so
And
hope so.
on today's episode, like I couldn't be prouder to be able to have somebody on. Kathryn is somebody we've both known for a number of years, and
And
we
both
actually,
respect. Both
yeah,
respect. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, huge respect.
more than most actually. Certainly the modern team, more than the modern team, but I met Kathryn through the Partner Advisory Board, and my first PAB was actually in LA at shop.org. I think it was the last shop.org event before it got rolled in. And welcome to the show, Kathryn. I'm psyched to get a chance to ask you a few questions and, quite frankly, give you a chance to ask us questions. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I have to ask you though, that pad, was that really your first pad? Was that the one where Rich, you and I shared a cab back to the airport?
I don't know actually. It's funny because TJ told me the story too, like coming into the first pab and like being intimidated, and I was like, right, TJ being intimidated, but because we
Exactly.
had all the OGs in there, right? Like who'd been there for a long time. So
Yeah, it was you, Adam, and JB, and then Jim Lynch and Catherine, right? And then, no, I was fucking petrified. The only thing that made me
That was
feel,
my first pab as well. But yeah.
it was both of your first pabs. Wow.
Yes.
it was also Kevin Eschelberger's first pab from Blue Acorn. I remember that DeMello got us both in there. Um, but Catherine, a lot of people, I mean, you have a pretty interesting storied past. I thought maybe instead of me riffing on your background, maybe you could take a couple of minutes and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, and
Yeah.
how you sort of knew and met us, and then kind of been what you're up to lately. I think the stuff Twilio's doing is absolutely stunning. So I watched that very closely. But why don't you take a few minutes and kind of give us the 411 on you?
Sure. Yeah, well, actually to go all the way back, my father taught me to code when I was 18.
Wow.
And like, of course, at the time, I thought it was cool, but like now, of course, I really, really treasure it. Um, but he taught me to code, so then I ended up with a part-time job coding integrations, like customizations for customers during college. And see, it sounds like your own fast too, right? Like it was like, and I was like, this is pretty. My dad was like, could you take care of these customers? They want stuff that we don't have. Like, if you could help them figure out how to like build this, that'd be awesome. And I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great. Um, I wanted to be an accountant when I grew up, but thankfully, my father, who was in a startup, his partners convinced me to come join him. So my Tomax years are really that's my father was one of the founders.
Oh, I
Uh,
never knew that. That's so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah, but probably also like the reason I was just sharing this is like it might actually make sense why we like really liked each other right off the bat too. But anyway, so
The funny
we did
thing
that.
was, my dad was an accountant, and I always thought I was going to be an accountant. Like that was it. Like when you said that, I'm like, I thought I was going to be an accountant too. That was like, I'm going to be just like my dad. So funny.
Yeah,
See, my
I
dad's
know.
a drunk and smokes cigarettes, and I'm neither of those things. So
I
I'm
was going to
pretty
tell you, like, look, you accomplished that.
like six times a year. That's it. Sorry, Kath.
Special occasions. No. Yeah. So then, fast forward a whole bunch of years. I mean, I'm doing point of sale, retailer, ERP stuff. Um, my father ended up retiring, so now it's me and a bunch of his partners. We start building a point of sale API and start building some mobile point of sale. Like this is early days where the only stores that had this were at Apple, and we're like, we need to bring this. And that's how we met Demandware. And
Wow.
we probably all met the first same person, Tom Griffin, you
Griff,
know? And
the cleanest kind of guy I still to this day know. So
yeah, yeah. So we started talking to Demandware early 2014, and ended up selling the company to Demandware January 2015.
Wow.
And so that's how I came to Demandware. But then as we started on that journey, I started doing more like with the commerce platform side of it. And then when we got to Salesforce didn't want to continue with point of sale as part of the offering, which is totally fine. It's its own story. That's, like we make these hard decisions in business. And then I just became a commerce person full time from that point on, and met you two, I guess, in LA. I guess that's where we met at the first tab, which was awesome and terrifying. But here we are. So then fast forward, I left Salesforce and went to Pluralsight, which might seem like a weird stop for me, except for the part of my story I didn't tell is when we started building point of sale API, a mobile point of sale, I needed to up level my skills and the team skills. And we went to Pluralsight as a place to really do that. And they were kind of still early days. We got a bunch of free licenses, so that my team could learn skills they didn't have. So my stop at Pluralsight was really about I was a customer and I loved them, and they've changed the career trajectory of a lot of people that I work with. But now I'm at Twilio working on customer data platforms and multi-channel marketing. And so kind of back to more of my adjacent space that I love.
That's amazing. I did not know that was also your first pab in LA. And so you were just as horrified as I was. We were around commerce royalty. And then I see JB and Adam and Rich just ripping into Jim Lynch, and I was like, "Oh, I can do this. This is
Come
straight up."
I'm ripping anymore.
Well,
I was very kind.
Rip with you is more
Midwest.
It's more blippy than rippy, but yeah.
TJ and I have talked about this. The Midwest ripping into someone versus the.
It's like the Utah
East
version.
Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine when I joined Demandware. Utah meets Boston. That was its own.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But Griff wasn't a big profanity guy. I remember every time I swore in front of him, I could see the shade in his cheeks glow up a little bit. So, funny story. I at the Fontainebleau, we were in Live, and I go, Griff. He's like, "Why do you keep calling me Griff?" I'm like, "I just like it." I'm like, "Griff, have a drink with me." He's like, he goes, "You know what? I'm going to have a drink with you. Go get me a drink." And I come back with a vodka Red Bull, and he goes, "That will kill me." And then he put it down and walked away. But I didn't realize, Kat, that Pluralsight was a way station to go sort of re-educate, reorient, and sort of, I don't want to use maybe the term modernize, but kind of was really an educational experience as much as it was anything.
Yeah. I mean, Pluralsight, I think, is an incredible company that just focused on developer education. And the time that I found them, we were making these bets on mobile. We were going to public cloud. We were trying to use, things like Scala and Akka, and we'd been a big Java shop. So this was all terrifying. Also, we're startups. We have no money. And this is actually a really important point. So then I'm like, what can I do that is free or cheap to still be able to leapfrog from where we are to where we need to be? And Pluralsight was a massive answer for me. And so then I brought it to Demandware. We use it at Demandware, and then we use it at Salesforce too, because I was like, you guys, this is again, it's the cheap, free, accessible way that developers can just kind of up-level skills. And so
that's amazing. So when we met you at the PAB, were you head of product management or product development?
Actually, I think I still had some engineering then. I can't remember, but I had engineering all the way into Salesforce for a while. And then Salesforce had me choose, what is my true love? Is it product or is it engineering? Turned out to be product, but I knew that about myself. But yeah, I probably still had some engineering. I can't remember though.
I mean, I think that was the thing about you that, you know, you kind of knew your stuff. I mean, I don't need to say anything about people maybe past you, but let's just talk about you. Like you came in, you knew your shit, you wanted feedback, and I mean, and that was really refreshing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I just think, actually, that leads to a question that I have for both of you. Like, this
Oh
is almost
gosh,
like me seeking advice too.
this is kind of early to just get it. We don't usually start with questions this early. This is
Oh, I
this
didn't realize there were rules.
this is
No
Um,
rules,
this
no
is kind of
rules,
quick.
you
There's
know.
no rule. For you, there's literally no rules. I want to hop on the back of what Rich said before you asked your question though. Is that you being in the room with you in Jim? I have to bring Jim Lynch up too.
yeah,
Kid was a saint the way that he would put up with us, but what I thought was amazing about PAB during my tenure while you guys were there, and certainly under Mike's leadership too. I think Mike was stunning when he was leading that whole thing. I think after that it kind of went to shit, but um, you like really like listened and cared and like would
Right.
have deep dialogues with us. Like I remember being in London and we all did the breakaways and we came back and said, "You guys better start looking at headless," and you were like, "Yeah, we weren't even remotely thinking about that." So I think what I appreciated with all my interactions with you was like they were like real pure, honest, like collaborative dialogues. And I don't think that happens at the scale that it could be happening out there. Everyone's got their plan that they want to go to and kind of execute. But you guys are so open and so generous with your time and even just generous with the ideation stuff in it. I can't thank you enough. You gave me, you know, that was a very refreshing thing for me. That actually changed how I looked at product companies and how I interacted with software companies from ever forward, because you can have that partnership and you can
Right.
help them do better if they're willing to listen. They don't listen anymore, but you know, so thank you for that. I
yeah.
appreciated
Well,
that.
I mean, it's thank you. That's really a source of my question back to you because, like, I guess first of all, that was clearly a really special chapter. And I think like a lot of credit goes to Demandware itself for setting up
I
a
agree.
partner first kind of orientation.
Correct.
Um, but you know, like I've now kind of been in a couple of other roles and companies, and I keep wanting to have this same thing because like everywhere I go, I'm like, it turns out as the software vendor, you actually can't do it alone. Like you really need your ecosystem and uh and so I have like a few questions here. Like I don't want to we'll go down rabbit holes.
No, let's go wherever you
Rabbit
want.
holes are
We
But
don't
then
fun.
it's
We like rabbit
like
holes.
yeah, I encounter things, everything from like, oh yeah, we have a partner program and it's like a mixture of tech providers and SIs. And I'm like, not really the same. Like I really like to keep these separate because the SIs are like the actual dog fooders. The tech
correct.
partner has like a slightly different angle here. They're like
Correct.
trying to
Correct.
figure out a co-sell, co-market, all that stuff.
Correct.
So like that, I encounter that. And then I also regularly encounter like we make slides that say partner first. But I don't I've kind of gone past my own cynicism there, but to say like, oh, I think people don't actually know what this means. They don't know how to do it. And so I have like a series of questions for both of you as like, how do we, the vendors, software vendors, do this differently? You know, like what is kind of the formula? And maybe my first question is like, when you're a smaller or like new to the partner space, how do you get people like you to care? Like it's one thing to say like, oh, we should always be listening to partners, but I also, even now at Twilio, encounter things like, I got a big practice already with Salesforce or with Adobe. Like, I don't know, this seems pretty small and like I don't really have the energy to put into this. So like how do you break in? That's maybe like question number one. Like what could vendors do like myself to like actually appeal to providers like both of you have been?
Rich, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna
He
let
like
you.
assigns, you know, TJ's like the boss. He like assigns it, and usually
I
it's 'cause
know. I
he
see
wants to
this.
He wants to stall. He's like, I need a second to think about it, so I'll put it on Rich.
Exactly.
Listen, that's not true at all. You want me to go first, Rich?
I'm just messing with you. No, I got it. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
Okay. Well,
I
I'm
think
fragile, so be careful.
yeah, right. I think it is, your question is real, right? Because I do think it's very hard. I mean, it's not easy, and especially with the bigs, like obviously going into Capgemini and seeing how they didn't care. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we have big practices, and so we can kind of pretend we care, but we don't really care, right? And we're not going to build a practice and we're not going to spend time. So I do think, I mean, this is the hard part. I think it's if you're aligned with serving the customer. So this is my viewpoint, right? Like if you say we have a solution that's going to help the customer, and then if you find the right person that is actually truly, committed to serving the customer, then you can win, right? Like if you think about, finding that person, like we can help your customer, and then they're interested because they want to help their customer, and it doesn't become about money and I want to build a practice. I need to hire people and blah, 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 blah. No, we can help the customer. So that's not an easy answer. But I just think from my perspective, like the reason we partnered and the way we partnered was just, if you can help my customer, I'm all in and I don't have to make money, right? Because I want my customer to be super successful. And
Yeah.
not everyone has that perspective, so that's hard. So I'm not giving you an easy answer, right? But that's kind of what I think.
No, that resonates. I think, yeah. Uh, that's part of the problem. That's part of the friction is like we don't have shared incentives. Like, what are we trying to do?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I think it's a really good question, right? So, because I dealt with that, I had partnerships reporting into me for a while, and I was on the ISV side, right? So I actually worked with ISVs, which is the product companies, but I also worked with customers. I think the thing that I saw out there that I wish I saw executed better was that it just seems like a line item on a deck, right? There's no real passion or no real dialogue or no real bond building or rapport. And I think that's actually where the gap is. I think that if you're going to have people that are going to go out and really have a partnership program, you really have to kind of look within and sit down and think about what does it mean to actually have a partnership program? Like, I know at the end of the day, you want to sell licenses, and at the end of the day, I need revenue, but there's a lot of ether in the middle there that's common ground that people just don't do sort of the plow work on to kind of figure out. And I think that what's missing is that alignment. I'm a lot like Rich. I didn't really care about MDF and I didn't really care about cash incentives and things like that. And with IPG, when I was part of IPG, they didn't allow that anyway. They would only allow MDF. And then they actually started saying they didn't even want MDF. But I think what we see out there quite a bit is that there's a lot of ask for us to invest in you and not a lot of you figuratively investing in us.
Yeah.
And if the amount of times that I'm given a link to 400 pages of documentation and a sandbox and told to go figure it out and figure out how to prime stuff by myself is nauseating. So I think that if you really want to be a partner and you really want to be a good ISV, like we had in Link, for instance, right, to the SIs, I think that you have to make a commensurate investment in your technology stack and your onboarding and your enablement, because we don't have time to learn another thing by ourselves. That was a challenge that I actually had with Ampliance. We sold a huge Ampliance deal and we co-developed with them, and they basically just said, here you go, here's our thing, go figure it all out. And they had amazing documentation, but like, I don't want to keep having first childs every time I have a relationship with a new product company. And that's what it feels like. So I think the miss out there a lot, Kathryn, quite frankly, is that people want access to my customers and and they want the revenue that comes out of it, and they want the introductions, but they don't want to do all of the work that goes towards making that meaningful introduction effective. To Rich's point about customer sort of alignment, it's more than that. It's about helping us get up to speed faster.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so anyway, I don't talk a bunch on that, but I have a lot of strong feelings on the whole ISV space. And you made an interesting point. I think during the Demandware days, the PAB for ISVs and the PAB for SIs was something I've never seen in my 35-year history in the industry. Like I've
Really?
And it was
never,
real, right? It was
no one
real.
I'm like,
ever,
We had
how
executives
did
there.
you bring it
Yeah.
together? Like we just did this. I mean, like I just made the same mistake
yeah,
at Twilio, and then I was like, okay, hold on, wait. I already learned this lesson once.
yeah,
SI is separate because like there we're having like real talk about implementation, adoption, problems that customers are having. Or
correct.
like the ISVs, they're like, hey, we want to talk about what's not working in the co-selling motion, or
Right.
like, do
Yeah,
we want to be on each other's paper? And like, this is like not the same. Like
yeah.
that's not the same conversation at all.
Well, so I used to sit in the ISV PABs, and they used to ask why I was in there, and Jonah got me in, and Griff had me, Griff would come in and
Yeah.
speak every once in a while, and I would do like, it was a day-long meeting. I would talk for an hour as sort of a guest speaker, and I would always say to the ISVs, and any ISV listening to this better write it down. As an SI, I sit between what you think you sold your customer and what my customer thinks they bought. I am the reality between the deck, the deal, and the expectations. And that's a tough place to be, because a lot of shit gets sold into the brands right now that doesn't have the level of ethics that I think it should have. And ethics might be the wrong word, but I don't have any fancy language there. And customers think they're buying a magic thing. So,
Right.
it's you got to be real careful there, because expectations management is what we are responsible for as SIs.
Yeah.
Our client thinks they bought a widget that does magic backflips, and the other company just bought a thing that was capable of doing magic backflips, but you had to actually train it to figure out how to do them, right? Those are two
Yeah.
different things, and if you take out the capability to it, 80% of it sounds exactly the same, right? So it's a weird thing. What a great question. And
Yeah,
how do
that's
we
a
get the
great
magic back that we had? You got to have commitment from leadership, and you've got to have budget for it, and you've got to
Yeah.
make an investment, because it's not a quick thing. Like
It took
takes
time. It took
Dude.
time. Like you're talking about the first one where you guys came in. I mean, that PAB had been going on for quite a while, right? And we had some rough starts. We had some fights. I mean, we had some, shit that happened in the beginning, right? And all the things you're talking about right now, enablement, that was an issue. Growing the partner program, because at one point it grew too much, and then all these
Yes.
implementations were getting fucked up, and we're all like, this isn't helping anything, right? And then there was the whole account management thing, right? Troy was in there, and we were having fights over whose customer was it, and it was like, it's both of our customers. We need to go together. Like we
Yeah.
can't go and tell them that you guys suck, and you can't go and say that we suck. Like, how do we go in together? And once again, if you go back to what I said before, customer,
Yeah.
like what's best for the fucking customer. And once you forget that, then we can fight about all kinds of stupid shit. But I mean, it was kind of a battle. So I mean, you're trying to, figure that out anew, but it took some years, right? Where, you know, we finally got into a groove, and then you have to deal with competitors, right? Like I think
Yes.
we had a special group of people, not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but I mean, TJ and I mean, we were all competitors in there, but we were like, hey, there's plenty of business to go around.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and we all want what's best for this community. We all were, dependent on it. And if we could help each other, and think about it, I mean, it's kind of crazy from the outside to say, here you had all these competitors working in these small work groups to come up with what's the best solution for everyone.
Yeah.
And committing resources. Like, remember we committed resources like Reagan and Jeff, like we're applying, you know, senior technical architects, like let's have these meetings and let's figure this stuff out because it's good for all of us.
I agree. I thought the London meeting was when the first time we actually all really came together as independent groups. And it's an interesting point, Kathryn, about getting an advisory board together because there's a lot of insecurities that have to be dealt with at first. And the reality is Rich and myself and Adam and JB and Fjord and a couple others, like, we did 90% of the yapping because it's really hard to get into a room of all these people that you think are your competitors when actually you probably would be better friends and be open. But maybe, I don't know. I think there's a business there. It's been talked about a lot on LinkedIn as well. I think partnership programs on both sides of the aisle, right? As SIs, the ISVs, and the software companies is just ripe for innovation. And I think the challenge is everybody's short-sighted and doesn't treat it as important as a channel as it actually is at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure.
I agree. Yeah, it's interesting about that like competition thing. I think it's like, how do you create an environment where there's not zero sum thinking? Like there's only one pie, and if you're here, then you're taking some of mine. It's more like, how are we like really opening this
the
up?
whole pie? Yeah, 100%. I mean,
well, you have to lean into that, and you have to basically make that part of your monologue, and you have to say, let's not be a bunch of babies in here, right? I mean, you don't say it like that, but you have to find a soft way to say, hey, I know, looking around this room, that this could be a challenging place to be free and open, but it's a circle of trust, and at the end of the day,
and you know that TJ in some of those meetings, like there's people that were in there for years that never really said anything, and they were writing down, we're talking about clients, and you can watch them write down that client name and go try to steal the client, but we're like, come on, whatever.
Yeah. Like, well, that didn't stop. That kept going right up until the end of my tenure in November.
But I do think it was.
I got my chain letter.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of fought through a lot of that. But think about even from the beginning, like Tom's in there, Jeff's in there, Jameis, Griff. I mean,
leadership.
That was a commitment that kind of teetered off towards the end. Yeah. The end of it, at least when I was in there at Salesforce.
Teetered. It was like the cliffs of Dover, but yeah. That's an awesome question. And Kathryn, I don't know if you heard the story, but I found out I was no longer on the PAB because they made me reapply, and I just got like a chain letter saying we appreciate your interest, but you didn't make it after 8.5 years.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
I did not hear that. I mean, I heard you mention that in like the first episode, and then I did not realize that you had to reapply. I mean,
I asked him, my first question was, did you at least get the plaque? And he's like, no, I didn't get the plaque or anything. I'm like, I got out in time where I still got like a plaque, like it's up there on my shelf or something up there. But I mean, you should be like, you should make sure, tell them to send you one. Come on.
I mean, TJ, we made you take some of our toughest customers and fix them.
Yeah. I can't name them because they might listen to this, but I was usually the guy that's like, so, hey, like,
I'm like, hey, we need a favor. Like, we cannot get this one under control.
You can no.
Fire. Fire. We need some.
Remember when I went to Dreamforce, Kat, and you were like, I went into the big party, and you're like, this is the guy that basically fucking fixed the problem child. Yeah. But it was good. Well, that's an awesome question. I love that. We can, you should feel free to ping Rich and I as well. Like maybe one of the things to do is maybe have like an offline session, or maybe bring somebody that knows how a PAB works into one of your PABs or to a leadership call, and even just discuss sort of some of the misnomers about it. Because as an executive, if your executive team isn't committed and behind it, then it's going to die on the vine anyway.
Yeah. I agree. That's a great. Thank you for that offer of like you two being sort of like industry experts in how to do this on both sides. Because I think like I could see the same thing being useful in the first PAB, having you guest speak to the attendees. Like, how do you show up when your competitor is sitting at the table over? How do you, like, how do you do that? So
get comfortable. I hear you. That's a great question. What else do you have up your sleeve? You have any other doozies for us?
No, this was like now for something totally different, like Monty Python here. How do you know when it's time to stop? Like when you both have like made these choices to do sabbaticals.
I
I
never
don't
did
know.
I never did a sabbatical, so TJ is going to have to start this one. I mean,
What do you
he
Well,
mean?
actually was more
but you took
disciplined.
a big shift, Rich. Like you went
I
from
did,
like,
but I never really took time off, and everyone told me to. But TJ, well, I'll keep going. I mean, I was going to make TJ answer it first, but when you say stop, so I do think.
stop or change, I should
No, no,
say.
no. Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. So I think I did
Quitter.
choose to stop being having an operational role. How about that?
Yeah.
So that
Sure.
was, I mean, and that was a big shift for me, right? When, and you maybe have never heard the story, but I mean, my role got eliminated at Capgemini. So
Oh.
I so it wasn't like I decided and went to them and said, "Hey, I'm going to leave." They eliminated my role in North America. And then I was like, went to, John, who was the president of North America, and he was kind of being forced out. And I'm like, he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to do what I always do. I want to be in front of customers and I want to make a difference, right? Like that's kind of where I am at this stage, right? And he's like, there's not a role like that in North America, which was actually a gift though. I mean, he was being honest. I respected that. So literally, I mean, think about this. They bought my company. We made our earnout in a year and a half. I didn't have to stay there at all to get my earnout, 0 days, right? So I stay there for 4 years, and then they eliminate my position, and they have to pay me a severance, a 6 month severance, then on the way out. Never came to me like, let's try to re-roll, let's do something else. It was just kind of like, so. I mean that. I mean, I have to be honest with you guys. Like, I mean, my feelings were hurt. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like a human being, right? Like I was like, but I mean, it was a gift. Like I kind of, go by EWOP, right? Everything works out perfectly, right? And things happen for a reason. So then I can transitioned out and tried to decide what I was going to do. But I kind of jumped in right away to advisory boards. People reached out to me. I mean, and I was, TJ was what I was kind of, we're joking, but I'm serious. TJ was more disciplined to like take some time, like take a breath, like don't actually work. And I'm kind of a workaholic, to be honest. And I don't, I don't know what I'd do with myself if I didn't have something on a daily basis. And I guess I didn't want to figure that out, right? So I got onto boards and did some stuff, and I love it. I love the board work. I love the advisory work, and it's different. You don't have to hire people. You don't have to fire people. You can
Yeah.
set your own schedule. And people have asked me, like, are you going to do it again? And no, I'm not. So when you say, how did you know when? I mean, I think it's kind of like I think about that. I did it for 14 years.
Yeah.
I ran my own company. I went through all the ups and downs. I went through all the heartache in the beginning where you're mortgaging your home and writing checks to make payroll. Like we
Yeah.
bootstrapped it. We never took money in. Went through the financial crisis, had to go ask my mom for a loan because my bank called in our loan and I couldn't get money, in 2009. I mean, there were, like you ride the highs and the lows. So do I miss it? 100% miss the people, 100% miss the culture. That's why, I still go to conferences and stuff. I get to see people. It's like a reunion every time. And I love that. I mean, but I was kind of like, I did it. I mean, I don't mean this arrogantly. Like I built the company that I loved. I built a company with the people that I loved. I mean, I kind of did it. And so did I want to go do it again? Not really. You know what I mean? I kind of made that decision. Like at this point, I want to help other people. I want to do different things. I still, TJ and I were joking. Like if I could, help people not make the same mistakes I made, that'd be great. People are going to make their own mistakes, but maybe not make the same ones I did, right? And so I think my purpose is a little different where, I just want to help and I want to give back and, it's kind of like pay it forward. So that's the kind of shift for me that I, kind of love. So
Awesome.
I like that. Yeah, your story is different. You didn't actually take time off, and you kind of jumped right back into it. I remember seeing the press release when you got on the Phenom as an advisor, and
Yeah.
I was a little different, Cat. I'm a little bit more probably traditional and direct. Um, I was tired. Like I was tired. Like I had worked 100+ hours a week, for 30 years, at
Yeah.
Pixel, and for the year before, 2 years before, I just started doing computer work in like when I was 22 and a half. So, a
I
year
love
and a
you
half.
just called it computer work.
Yeah. Because I didn't know much about I didn't know anything about computers. I lied to get a desktop job as a release engineer so I could wear a white shirt. But for me, my health started to go.
Mhm.
I was like bringing unhappiness home, and at the end of the day, I was just tired. I had gone
Yeah.
through private equity. We had done a couple of acquisitions. We were growing at a ridiculous amount during COVID. We had gone through the acquisition with IPG, and I had gotten married. So technically, I did 5 transactions in an 18-month period, and I was tired. And I remember coming home a lot and talking with Shannon because it was literally a long before I actually gave my notice. I had to give 4 months notice. It was, I pained over that for like 8 or 9 months because I felt like I was like failing my staff and my team and letting them down. I said to somebody on a call I was on earlier today, it was kind of like I felt like I was like wanted to move out of the house and leave my family, and because that's how much I care about my staff. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I had to get comfortable with the fact that I've done things that most people have never done, right? I've climbed that mountain. I've peaked at the Everest of business, in my opinion, right?
You
um,
did.
and I was exhausted. Like it was, I don't talk about this a lot, but I had put on I had to focus on all the acquisitions and stuff, so I put on 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, I stopped working out. I wasn't eating the way that I normally eat. I'm normally a very fit person, and I was just beat. I was putting all my energy into staff. I was doing a reorg. I was working with my new leadership team that had earned their way up to the top, and I was just cooked and I needed a break. And I didn't think it was fair to take a sabbatical from Raptor One slash Pixel Media because I didn't actually know if I was ever going to come back. And
Yeah.
it took me a while. Like I cried a lot, like a lot. It was tough on me.
Is this
And
a truth you knew, or did someone have to? Did you need others around you to help you come to
make
this?
make to the
It's-
decision. No, it caught everybody by surprise. I didn't tell anybody
Oh wow.
until I told Eric, other than my wife. My wife was every week waiting for me to like, I mean, I every Monday I thought I was going to go talk to Eric. Eric Doty is my business partner, still a business partner, but I told Eric first, and I felt horrible, but I was exhausted, and I came to this point where I was like, "Listen, I'm 53 years old. I just literally did 5 transactions, include marriage included, in an 18-month period. I beat the shit out of myself. Like, I don't know how much time I have left. I don't know when the curve of
Yeah.
not getting your health back
Yeah.
starts. Like, I don't know where the fulcrum of failure becomes.
Yeah.
And I just made a decision for my own health and sanity, and it fucking killed me. Like,
Good for you. No,
I
I think it was
cried,
right.
like I cried a lot, mostly to my wife. But I also had a good
I
haul.
cried too, by
Eh?
the way. It's just so everyone knows that we're both big babies. But yeah.
I think that, like, of course you are. Like, you don't get the fire without the other side of it either, right? Like, you just like,
100%,
Yeah.
100%. I was reading something the other day that it was actually a doctor on Gary Brecka's podcast maybe about a month ago that said, if you have a tremendous amount of fluctuation, and like if you get really crazy high when there's a win, then you get really crazy low when there's a loss. And what I tried to do is I tried to get back to baseline because I never used to be that way. I never over celebrated one thing or the other, and I was just tired, Kat. I was not in great health, and I didn't know if I was going to come back. Like I'm 4 months in, and I still don't know. I'm not getting calls like Rich did. No one's asking me to do advisory work and
Oh,
stuff like
that's not
that.
true.
But
You told me people are asking you.
well, I mean,
You're
yeah, all right.
lying a little bit.
Maybe not the volume that Rich gets.
He's
I'm not
not ready
lying.
to
I'm being
But it's good
guarded.
that
But
you're not. It's good that you. I think it's good, and I think Shannon supported you beautifully.
yeah,
To
well,
like, I had
she,
to kind of beg to
yeah,
get him to be able to do this podcast, Kathryn. You know, that was like a beg because this is, you know, I had to make this isn't work. This doesn't
well,
work. We're just having
It's
fun.
fun. It's
yeah,
just cool.
my wife made me promise to do nothing for 2 months. Now, listen, other than my honeymoon, which was like 3 weeks, I've never taken this much time off
Yeah.
like in my life. And
I can't
Rory was,
imagine it either. Like it's part of why I'm asking is like for myself, and it's like,
uh,
and all the rest of us workaholics. That even when I change jobs, like my last day was on a Friday, my first day is on a Monday,
yeah,
and like I'm just maybe cut from that cloth. Maybe this is the other part of my dad who was a workaholic that I just
Right.
picked
yeah.
up, and I'm like, I have a. I also feel like I have a lot of energy to give, and so you just do it, and you just don't know the another speed. I don't know another
Correct.
speed.
No. There's one. I have a go button. What I've done is made a sort of a joke that I'm in the business of me now, and the energy that I put into building a business with Eric and all of my wonderful staff and leadership team.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've had thousands of people through there over the last 30 years. Is that I've now redirected that energy towards me. Like I'm in better shape than I've been in years. I'm exercising better. I'm eating better. I'm mentally better. I'm being like a good house husband. Like I'm taking care of my wife. I'm spending more time with my kids. And, you know, I don't want to say I'm doing laundry. That's the one thing I haven't picked up yet. But, you know, like I'm doing all the things that I neglected so that I could focus on the business. And she took care of all of that. So, but I'm getting to a point. I was telling Rich yesterday that, like, you know, thank God golf is here, but I don't know if I'm going to make it too much longer because I have so much pent up desire to just do things and be around people and help people and contribute that, like, you know, golf's only going to get me so far. So I'm kind of, I don't want to say the end of my rope, but I'm 4 months in. I might be able to get another month out of it, but I think by July I'm going to be on a tear. I have no desire to be on somebody's payroll. I don't
Yeah,
want to be a subservient person to somebody, but yeah, I just was tired and I'm still figuring it out. My plan was to not have a plan, and I'm getting an A+ on that classwork. So
Awesome.
amazing, amazing.
what
Okay,
else do you have for us, Catherine? Any other do I love the questions, by the way. Nobody usually,
yeah.
we don't use
Like
this
you're
whole
very
time to
prepared.
get
See,
questions
she
asked
came
of
in
us.
prepared.
Good.
Well, I mean, I've been listening to you. You're what? How many listeners do you have? I'm one of them, but I love it.
No idea.
I think we have two. I think we have
And
two listeners, TJ and I. That's it.
Yeah.
okay, well, three. And then yeah, there's like, it's so funny to watch the two of you on LinkedIn also because Rich, you're like the polished, like here's the right things to do, and TJ, you're like the here's the real story. And in fact, I've been
Totally.
using one of your phrases a lot lately. You were like ranting about poor marketing experience, and you were like, learn to use your tools, people. And
I,
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so what it is. Like people actually have the ability; they just have no idea. Which comes all the way full circle to what you said too about being sitting between what they've been sold and what they think they got. And then there's maybe like a third dimension too, which is like, do I even know how to use it? And uh, I'm like, man, it's kind of my new like it's just in my head all the time now is like I gotta make as a vendor, like I gotta make this a lot easier because people just don't even know how to use their own tools. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really big gap out there. And you want to know what's weird, Kat, is that the stuff that's available to us right now is like at an all-time like
it's amazing. It is
amazingly
magical.
beneficial. It's literally life-changing, and nobody wants to put the time into it. And we're stuck on this whole, well, you know what I get from younger people? Like, well, they don't pay me enough to do that. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. You're like 29 years old. Best case scenario, you got 30 more years in you. Like, um, the paycheck has nothing to do with the ability to learn. Like you've got to put the time in. Like there's no excuse not to learn Clavio. There's no excuse not to learn how to do basic API calls and understand the handshake model, and even if just being conversationally competent. And what's fucked up is all that stuff is free. Like you can go learn anything you want right now for
Yeah.
free, and nobody wants to learn anything. They want to fucking scroll through duck lips and overly elevated shots so that my sagging skin looks a little tighter. It's an interesting time, but
And then
I
you
bought
throw
a
AI in there, and I mean, everything's going to be disrupted. I
well,
mean,
I bought a Whoop. Are you guys familiar with this thing, the Whoop device?
I am familiar with it. I don't have one
Yeah,
though.
I
So
don't
I
either.
have one. Shannon talked me into it. I bought it 3 days before I bought my super fancy Garmin GPS golf watch that does all the same things. But anyway, so my Whoop comes in yesterday, and I have to get. I don't want black. I need like a little cute one. It's fucking not charged, and the only way to charge it is through a portable battery that you slip over it, which also was not charged. So I get this brand new product. You know the unboxing experience.
Yes.
You
It's
want to
just like
use
software.
it? Yeah.
Hold on, it's just like software. Like you have me for about 25 minutes and then I don't know where the fuck I'm going to be, right? So I had to charge it. I charge the battery, you slip it on, it charges it. But not enough. So then you got to charge the battery again to charge it again before it's got enough of a charge to work. Now, maybe it's not how it always is. Maybe it's just me and I'm an asshole and it's the universe coming to me. But it's that way with software. Like nobody wants to put the time in. Everyone just wants to open a box and get going in 10 minutes. And there needs to be a better way to make that happen or a better way to coax them. You know what I used to say to Salesforce? I'm like, you guys have this awesome like marketing cloud thing, right? Like with journeys and shit. And you tell everybody about all this fucking amazing stuff. Like, why don't you wire that shit up to trailheads? Because I'm on so many fucking trailheads, I don't even know what mountain I'm on every day, right? Like, why don't you actually track my journeys in the trailheads and why don't you encourage me and micro educate me, right, in these little snippets and encourage me to come back and remind me of the 17 fucking badges that I'm going for? Like, anyways, sorry, I'm getting on a
No,
rant.
it's a well, like I just actually wrote that down unboxing because like that's kind of like I agree with what you said. And as a fellow old person, like I also experienced this in young people. But the unboxing thing is a real thing, and I uh think it happens kind of in places like you might have a QBR with a customer, right? That's like really positive and exciting. And then one of my frustrations today with a lot of people that are early in career, I'll call them that, is like, I'm like, okay, you have to seize the moment now. Like we all left the meeting. They're like, they want to do this thing. They're ready to put the resources in. And then we don't reach back out to the customer for like 2 weeks and then it's dead. And I just like, I'm like, oh, TJ, you might be onto something here. Like maybe the parallel is that unboxing and like when do we have unboxing moments with customers and like capitalizing on them? Yes, it's a
Correct.
time of purchase, but then they show up again and again. A new release that comes out that the customer's excited about, or a fix moment where we call one of you in to come and save a customer. Like you get through that hard time, and then there's another unboxing moment.
Yeah, exactly. I always it's so funny that you're bringing this up because Rich and I talked about Rich's whole mantra was take every swing that's in front of you. And my mantra has been top of mind wins the deal, so stay top of mind.
Yeah, yeah,
And we live in a distraction economy. Like
Yeah.
I think the problem with conversions right now, and just to talk about e-commerce a bit, I think the problem isn't that people don't like what they're doing. I think the problem is we're distracted 80% of the time. Most of the
yeah,
abandonments are distraction related, and I think if you can stay top of mind and you can keep the energy going, and there's enough technology to drip micro moments and micro interactions out, like why wouldn't we do that?
yeah.
Like, no, but nobody wants to put that thought into stuff, in my opinion, right? There's very few companies that really, you know, kind of hold your hand through the experience. And the unboxing experience sometimes is a week, and sometimes it's a quarter, and sometimes it's a whole year. So it's an interesting topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. That was a great one. I don't know if there was a question in there, but anyways, I have a whoop. and they actually asked me for feedback. I was like, yeah, the thing should come. So legally,
Charge.
I don't think legally you can send batteries fully charged. I think the maximum is half. Um, for rechargeable batteries. So I basically said, like, listen, here's my experience. Like, make sure the fucking thing's 50% charged. Let me at least get it up and running and then charge it overnight. Like, don't fuck up that introduction, because now I'm unhappy with it. And you can never get that sour taste out of someone's mouth when you
That
fail
initial
to
moment,
follow up.
right? I mean, yeah.
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 Cool. Anything else for us, Kathryn? Well, we got about, I
That
don't
was
know.
it. I mean, this isn't my podcast. I just,
We
It,
made it
it,
yours.
it is today.
We
It
made it
is.
yours. It's yours today for sure.
It's yours today. I want to say thank you for coming on. When we were talking about guests, I was like, you know what? Like, our interactions with you through the partner advisory board were life altering. Like, I don't think I've experienced that again before. Or after, and it's an honor to get to talk to you, and I love watching your journey, and the kids growing up, and your husband coming up at NRF and like hugging me and saying,
Yes.
Kathryn said I have to come find you, and
Yes.
so it's
No,
all
no, I mean, it's the feeling is mutual. And it's like, I was thinking about this part too. It's like interesting when you find a person, you guys, I think, talk about this with each other too, that you feel like this is like my kind of person.
Right.
And it doesn't always make sense. Like, I also don't make, you and Rich don't make sense. I also don't make sense. Like this Mormon from Utah, like loves these like direct people, but also, and and the New England people are my people, but you guys are just good humans, and super easy to see that in both of you. That's how I felt when I met you both, is like, I like these people. Even if they're saying things that I don't like right now, like my product sucks, it's okay. Like, I feel the like feedback is a gift, is like actually real here, not just
yeah.
Well, the feeling's
appreciate it.
100% mutual. I mean, you were, from first blush, a great person, right? And I think people, I mean, TJ and I talked about that, right? Like, people are like, how could you guys be friends or opposite? And TJ used to call himself the anti-rich, right? But I think,
True
you
story.
get to the core, it's like good people, right? And you're a good person, so.
Yeah.
And you're nice to be around, and I mean, it's, you just get that warm feeling. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I
I'll
think
share with you one other story when I knew I liked you guys a lot. I mean, I knew I liked you when I first met you. I think Zadam maybe was complaining about some of the latency problems that we had with authentication, and you all just jumped on him about trying to run commerce from a third world country.
No, that was JB.
John Bouanton.
That's
Oh,
That was
JB.
Bouanton.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. Okay, that's
JB, because we always like, dude, I mean, he's in Australia, right? But we were always
Yes.
like, dude, that's a third world country. Don't bring that shit up here. Like, we're
You're
in the
like,
US,
it's not a
right?
priority. You guys were just hammering him. And I was like, oh, I love these people. Like, we can't take ourselves so seriously all the time. So like, I think that's another, like, just great. We got to bring that to business.
gotta
more,
have
right?
fun, right?
It's
You gotta
not,
have
it's
fun. You
not
gotta have
life
fun.
or death. It's fun.
I remember telling JB, it's like, listen, dude, like, it's latency because there's a phone line going from California to fucking Australia. Like, the pipe is big here, but by the time it hits you, it's like a fucking coffee straw.
For the record,
Oh,
we did fix it. His feedback mattered. That was like the first service we moved to AWS, is
Good.
authentication. So,
Good.
but I just love that you guys just diffused it immediately, because he was hot.
Yeah.
He was hot.
He was complaining. I think it was actually OCAPy, because
Yes.
the way OCAPy, you could only do like 200 at a time, and the round trip was crazy. And then what John didn't know is if you called engineering, that they would like knob that up for you, and you could get 4 or 6 or 800 if you actually asked. We did that for Nava. But listen, don't hang up when I stop the recording, by the way. But I just want to say thank you. It's a pleasure having you on here.
it's great to have you, and it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's great seeing you both too. This is
I
great.
I love that this was an hour of basically just OG shooting the shit stuff, and it was kind of your episode actually. Like we didn't really ask any questions other than could you please do an intro, which is good. But and Rich, I love you to death. I appreciate you jumping on here as well,
Love you
and
too,
you I
brother.
think you talked more today than you usually do, so I think we need more of that.
I don't think so, but I love having you, Catherine, and thanks for asking us some, thought-provoking questions. I love that.
You're
Awesome.
welcome.
And good luck to you. I mean, obviously, TJ and I would help you do anything. So if you need help, reach out. You know we
Anytime.
would.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely. Cool. Well, let's bring this to a close. Anyone still listening, we appreciate you tuning in to Tea with Rich with Kathryn Murphy, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. So thanks, everyone. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.